most important thing a golfer or a teacher needs to know is why the ball goes where it goes. Well, science helps us with that, and it helps us with something called the D-plane. The D-plane was described in the book, The Physics of Golf, written by Theodore Jurgensen, and he talks about and describes the D-plane. And the D-plane is actually created by two things: the path of the club at impact and where the face is pointing at impact. And when we do that, we start off first with the direction of the sweet spot movement at impact, and that's called the path. And the path is, we're going to use this red stick for that, and the path can be at the hole, left of the hole, right of the hole, up and down. So the path also encompasses the angle of attack. So that forms the first half of the D-plane. The second thing that forms the D-plane is what we call normal to the club face by this yellow stick. And normal to the club face is perpendicular to the club face in every way. So again, two lines create a plane. So here is our plane created by the path of the club and the direction that the face is pointing. Now, that could be vertical or tilted. Then we create the D-plane. And there is the D-plane here. Now, once the D-plane is created by the movement of the club or the path and the face of the club at impact, then we introduce the golf ball. And a golf ball spins on one axis, and its axis of rotation is always perpendicular to the D-plane. So if the D-plane is vertical to the ground, the axis is parallel to the ground. But we don't always hit shots straight. Sometimes we hit them crooked, sometimes on purpose, sometimes not. So if the D-plane is tilted, so if we take the path or the direction of the club at impact, and let's say it's going to the right of the hole, now that tilts the spin axis, and the ball still does the same thing, rises up the D-plane, starts on the D-plane, and gravity pulls it off. That would be a hook. And then we have just the opposite, which is when the D-plane is tilted to the right, or the path is left of where the face is pointing at impact. That also tilts the spin axis. The ball tilts the spin axis this way, the ball rises on the D-plane, and gravity pulls it off. So that explains how a slice is hit. So it's important to understand and define the two things that form the D-plane: the path of the club and the way the face is pointing at impact. Now, some other things that we have to take into consideration is what we call spin loft, especially with the driver. The amount of spin created with the driver directly affects how far we're going to hit the ball. Usually too much spin is going to be a problem with the driver. So I'm going to give you an instance here. What creates spin is the difference between the path of the club or angle of attack and where the face is pointing at impact. This angle in here we call spin loft, the difference. So what creates spin, if these were the same, the ball wouldn't spin at all, and the further they are apart, the more spin we're going to create. The other thing that's going to create more spin is how fast the club moves. So the faster the club moves, the more backspin we're going to create. Now, with that said, we keep hearing that if we change the angle of attack, we're going to increase the backspin. Well, that isn't always true. For instance, if we have a level angle of attack and a face angle at 10 degrees at impact with, let's say, a driver, that creates a certain amount of spin and a certain amount of spin loft. However, if we hit down on the ball 5 degrees, we are told that creates more spin, but not if the face correspondingly changes the same 5 degrees, because we still have the same angle between these two. So the spin isn't changed at all, only the launch angle will change. The other thing that we talk about is in a club fitting situation, and that's with the lie of the club. We can have the lie of the club be perfect, and we can have a perfectly vertical D-plane, which means the ball should go directly at the hole. However, if the club's improperly fit, and if at impact, let's say the toe is low, that tilts the D-plane. Well, when that tilts the D-plane, that also changes the spin axis. This ball will fade, and this ball will draw. Now, but one interesting thing, if we have this situation where the toe is up at impact and the wrong lie of the club, but we open the face just the right amount. Now we have a vertical D-plane again, and the ball actually will fly dead straight, even though the club is improperly fit. Now, we don't want to play golf that way, but that's how people hit good golf shots with clubs that are improperly fit. So it's important to understand your path, your club face at impact, measure it, make your adjustments, understand how spin is created and managed, and you're going to hit the ball as far as you're going to hit it with your driver.